Hi guys, welcome to this video today on operations with decimals. I know, decimals, fractions, percentages, so much of maths is relating to this topic. My name's Darren, MaffsGuru. Really good to see you. Thanks for dropping by. Hopefully this video is going to be helpful. If you can, like my YouTube channel, like the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video, what am I talking about? And tell your mates and your teachers that these videos are here. Hopefully it will help them too. All right, so operations with the decimals, what are you going to be able to do? Add and subtract decimals, multiply and divide, and know about powers of 10. Powers of 10 is so really important. In the United Kingdom, we actually did it with what I would call bouncing decimals. Right? And that's very much what I'm going to do here. And I know that a lot of people looked at me when I got to Australia and went, no, we shift the numbers. And I'm like, no, we don't. We bounce the decimals, and that's what I'm going to stick with. All right, so if it does something slightly different from what your teacher does, don't worry about it. Different isn't a bad thing. Different is quite good. All right, you choose the way that makes sense to you. Rightio, so what are we going to do? All right, add and subtract decimal numbers. Adding and subtracting decimals is critically important and very easy. Now you will see that I have a calculator on the side of my screen. Yes, that's there. Don't worry about it if you don't have that calculator. You probably will later on, but it's a pretty funky calculator. Everything you can do is not watch Netflix. Right, so let's add some decimal numbers together. So we know that if I have the decimal number, sorry, example 1.3, that this has a particular place value. All right, we know that the 1 stands for units, the 3 stands for tenths. If I want to add that to 2.4, nice and easy, all right, because they both have exactly the same sort of place value digits. So we can do 1.3, this is reminding me of junior school, and 2.4. Now I'm using boxes here deliberately, and I will always, even now I'm 147 years of age, I will still write my stuff out like this. And all you do is, as you would normally do, is you add each column. 3 plus 4 is 7, the decimal point stays in the same location, and 1 plus 2 is 3. Job done, thank you very much. I've just added a couple of decimal numbers. Yay, the crowd goes crazy, and you're like, what on earth am I watching? Don't forget there are time codes, you can actually skip this bit if you already know it. And downloadable notes. Now, if you've skipped it, you won't have heard me say that, and I'll have to say it again later on in the video. But what about things like 1.2 plus 13.8? Well, same thing. Write it out as 1.2. Now, obviously, that's just got units and tenths. Now we've got tens, units, and tenths. So what I'm now going to do is write 13.8. So I've just introduced a new column. That's okay, but we add them together. So 2 plus 8 is 10. Now, you guys over here in Australia do the strangest thing. You carry the 1 above. I don't. So you're now going to go absolutely mental when I write the 1 down here. Now, don't worry about it. To me, it just makes more sense to keep it in a column. The reason I don't like doing it here is if I put the 1 there, it looks like 11, which you're going to turn around and say, well, it is. But anyway, I don't like it. I don't like it. Not going to do it. So 1 plus 3 plus 1, 3, 4, 5. That becomes 5. And then I carry the 1 down, and there we got 115.0. Ka-ching, thank you very much. Love. And that's pretty much what you do for all your decimal numbers. Nothing more complicated than that. Let's do one more example. Let's do 13.12. plus 247.06. All right, not difficult really, hopefully. So let's do 13.12, and I'm going to add on to that 247.06. Ka-ching, let's add all of them. So 2 plus 6 is 8, 1 plus 0 is 1. Move my decimal point down. It's really important you keep the decimal in the same place. That's going to come later on. 3 plus 7, I'm going to draw a line here. 3 plus 7 is 10. Carry my 1. 4, 5, 6. And there we go, 260.18. All right, exactly the same idea works with subtraction. Let's do a subtraction question. So we've got 9.7 minus 2.86. Thanks very much to Cambridge for allowing me to use their examples. Great series of textbooks, really grateful. So we've got 9.7, and now we're going to subtract 2.86. Now when you add values together, it doesn't matter in the order you do them. Right? It doesn't matter if I'd written the first one and the second one in the different order, because addition is fine. But when you have subtraction, we have to write the 9.7 at the top in this situation and the 2.86 below. Right, so let's going to draw two lines. All right, hold on a moment. I got a problem. There's no number in there. Congratulations, spot on. There is no number there. So I'm going to write no number there. It's a 0, right? So you should know that for decimal numbers, we can add as many zeros at the end of that decimal and it won't change the actual physical size, but it will make life easier for calculations. So subtract them. Oh, hold on a moment. I can't subtract them because I've got 0 take away 6. That'll give me negative numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow. So that becomes a 6 and I'm going to make that a 10. So I'm just borrowing one of the tenths and adding it over. So 10 minus 6 gives me 4. 6 minus 8, also not going to work. So I'm going to borrow one from there and make that an 8. And that now makes that a 16. So 16 minus 8 gives me 8. Move the decimal point down and 8 minus 2 gives me 6. And ka-ching, subtracting decimals. This stuff is amazing. All right, so that's adding and subtracting decimals. We really like that stuff. Yes, obviously, got a calculator. I could probably do it on my calculator quicker. But this isn't about using a calculator. Now I get to the really funky stuff, multiplying and dividing by 10 or powers of 10. So it should be 10, 100, 1,000, and so we go on. Now again, to me, multiplying and dividing by 10 is just moving a decimal point. Point or point? Decimal point. So if I had the number 27.36, right? Very definitely we can see that point there, can't we? Now when I multiply, I shift my decimal point to the right and I move it the number of zeros. So what I mean by that is if I am going to multiply this by 10, there is 1 0. So I move one place. Okay, so there is 1 0, so move one place. And by that I mean I've got 27.36. Where is the decimal point at the moment? It's there. I'm going to move it so that it now actually sits between the 3 and the 6. So therefore, that's going to give me 273.6. I have literally moved that decimal point one place. All right, so another example, 372.4639. Making these up as I go along. What should we do? Let's times that by 100. Now, because we're timing it by 100, there are 2 zeros, so I'm going to move the decimal place 2 places to the right. And I always do the arrows here to make it sensible. So let's move it 1, 2. That means it's going to fit between the 4 and the between the 6 and the 3. So I'm going to get 37246.39. Ka-ching. Thank you very much. And that works in exactly the same way as with division. But obviously when we divide, we're going to move the decimal point the other way. So if I had 936.24, and let's say I'm going to divide that by 100, because I'm dividing by 100, there's 2 zeros. So I'm going to now move my decimal place 2 places to the left. Okie dokie. So let's do that. It's going to move 2 places. So now it's going to be between the 9 and the 3. And the rest of the numbers just get written down as they are. So multiplying and dividing by 10, 100,000, awesome. Where it gets tricky, and maths is a big fat trick, is for example, if you had 92 times 100, for example. Now, I know that lots of primary school teachers go, oh, just put 2 zeros on the end. Don't just put 2 zeros on the end. Please do not put 2 zeros on the end. And I'll explain why in a moment. So, most people know that at this point in time, where is the decimal point? Well, the decimal point is at the end of the number, but it is hiding because it can hide. All right, so the decimal point doesn't need to be written if it's at the end of a number. I'm going to times by 100, which means I'm going to move my decimal place or decimal point 2 places to the right. So let's do that. 1, 2. So it's going to end up here, but hold on a moment. It's just jumped over a load of gaps. And I normally say, well, what's there? And kids go, nothing. I go, exactly. There are, in fact, nothings there. So I'm going to write in those two nothings. There we go. So I get 9, 2, 0, 0. Now again, you're going to say, yeah, but hold on a moment, you just banged 2 zeros on the end. It was a shortcut. Well, the thing is, shortcuts suck. Don't do shortcuts, all right? Not unless you know how to use them. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if I had, for example, using the shortcut, if I had the number 0.23 and I wanted to times that by 100, yes, then your shortcut fails horribly now. Because then what I'm going to end up is 0.23, bang 2 zeros on the end. Well, the decimal point's in exactly the same place. And in fact, they're the same number. All right, so banging 2 zeros on the end really does not work. Decimal places, right? So for example, if I had 0.23 times by 100, I would now bounce my decimal place 2, and that would actually give me the correct answer of 23. So be very, 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 very careful. What about division? What if I had 0.37? Let's divide by 1,000. Let's get mental. So 3 zeros means I'm going to move my decimal point 3 places to the left. Okay, so what are we going to do? So it's going to go 1, 2, 3. So that's where my decimal point is now. So there's my decimal point. The 0, the 3, and the 7 are there. But hold on a moment. It's bounced over 2 nothings. Yeah, bounced over 2 nothings. So what I actually do is put those 2 zeros in there. Now, just for neatness, I'm going to move my decimal point. Now, I know when I've done this on a previous YouTube video, there was a lot of discussion on the bottom about whether that's a correct answer. And I'm telling you now, that is incorrect. You cannot just write 0.00037. There has to be a number in front of that decimal point, which just so happens to be a 0. So anybody who tells you you can just write the answer down as 0.5 is wrong. It is 0.5. All right, please, please, please don't do that. Right, so that's multiplying and dividing by 10, 100, 1,000. Let's move on to the idea of multiplying decimals. All right, so when we multiply decimals, we have to use a bit of a trick. There's lots of ways of doing this, but this is how I do it. So if we do the example again from the Cambridge textbook, 2.57 multiplied by 3. Now, I always write this out in is it long division way? I don't know. Sorry, long multiplication way? I don't know. I would write this out as 2.57 multiplied by 3. Now, what we actually have to do is remove the decimal points. But we have to remember how many decimal places there were when we removed it. What I'm saying is, can you see there are 2 numbers here after that decimal point? So what I'm actually going to do is I put a 2 in a square and I delete that decimal point. So I actually now have 257 times 3. But I've still got a track there of my decimal places, and I'll show you why in a moment. Now, doing this is relatively simple. 7 times 3 is 7, 14, 21. Again, I'm going to put the 2 down here. 5 times 3 is 15, 16, 17. 2 times 3 is 6, add the 1 gives me 7. So 257 times 3 is in fact 771. We now need to put the decimal point back in. And the reason we do this is because we're now going to have 2 numbers after my decimal point. So I now need to put my decimal point back in there so that I retain those 2 numbers after the decimal point. So the answer to that then is 7.71. For those of you who want to know what we're really doing, if you have 2.57, then what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to multiply that by 100 to make it a whole number. So I'm going to multiply that by 100. Then when I multiply that by 3, I get my 771, but I have to undo my calculation. I have to undo that by then reversing it. So then for my answer, I'd have to divide by 100, which would put my decimal point back in there. Okay, does that make sense? Because that's effectively what you're doing. Here's another example. Right, so let's write it out first. So I'm going to ignore all my decimal points. Rather, I'm going to, so there's 2 there and 1 there, so there's 3. So I'm going to put a 3 in that square there. Now, obviously that means that what I've done is I've times both of those numbers, the equivalent of 1,000. All right, so I've times by 100, times by 10 to get rid of those decimal numbers, so I've times by 1,000. That's why the 3 is there. So now 413.96. Going to multiply those together. Yeah. All right, now again, there are lots of ways of doing this. We can do it long multiplication way. That's certainly one way of doing it. So 6 times 3 is 18. Carry the 1. 1 times 6 is 6. 7. 4 times 6 is 6, 12, 18, 24. All right, so all I've done at the moment, if you remember, is I've taken the 6 here and I've multiplied it by 413. That's the first thing you do. Now what I'm going to do is, because I'm now going to multiply by the 9, I need to put a 0 in here so that I can put all of my numbers in the right columns. So now I'm going to do 9 times 3, 9, 18, 27. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 2 is 11. 9, 18, 20, 9, 18, 24, 36, 37. All right, rub those values out, draw my lines because we do, and then add them together. So what have we got? We get 8, 14, 4, 5, 6, 9, 3. Is that my final answer? No, because if you remember, I now need to go and put my decimal point back in so that there are 3 numbers after the decimal point. All right, again, this is the same as dividing by 1,000. So that would therefore mean that 4.13 times 9.6 would give me 39.648. Right, so that's awesome. What about division? That's multiplication. What about division? Okay, so now we've got an example of division, and when there's just one decimal number being divided, it makes sense just to leave it and do division as we would normally do. So we're going to do 4 on the outside, draw my 35.756, and just do short division. All right, so 4s into 3 just do not go. So I'm going to carry that 3. 4s into 35 go. How many times? 8. With a remainder of 3. 4s into 37 go. 9. 9, 8, 7, 36. Remainder 1. 4s into 15 go. 4, 8, 12. 3 with remainder 3. And 4s into 36 go. 9. And ladies and gentlemen, nice and easy. So that's like the adding the decimals, isn't it? Yes? And I say it's easy so long as you know your times tables and you know how to do this short division. The next example is a bit trickier. So what we're going to do with the example is actually now we have 2 decimal numbers, don't we? We have 2 decimal numbers. And whereas for multiplication, we just took the number of decimal places and put it in a box, it doesn't quite work that way. Why? We like this last number, we like the divisor to be a whole number. Now, to be able to do that, I've got to get the decimal point moved. So going back to what we've done before, I can make 0.03 into a whole number by timesing by 100, because that's going to move my decimal place 2 places, isn't it? And that's going to give me 3 with the decimal point on the end, which just gives me 3. But if you remember, with fractions, what we do to one number, we have to do to the other to keep them equivalent. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to multiply both of these numbers by 100, just so that we can get that divisor as a whole number. So we're going to move my decimal point 2 places there, which gives me 6413.7, and that's going to be now divided by 3, which makes life a lot easier, because if I do 3 into 6413.7, let's see, 3's into 6 go 2, 3's into 4 go 1, remainder 1, 3's into that go 3, remainder 2, 3's into 23 go 7, don't forget to do the decimal point, remainder 2, and 3's into 27 go 9, and ladies and gentlemen, we have our final answer. So actually that's probably the trickiest part of all of this. Adding and subtracting decimals, fine. Multiplying and dividing by 10, 100,000, fine. Multiplying decimals, awesome, but dividing decimals, just make sure that this number here is a whole number. by making sure that whatever you do to that, you do to the other number as well. So times by 100, times by 1,000, divide by 100, divide by 1,000. And ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe if you can. Tell your mates and your teachers that this resource is here. I just want to help people. All right? Never going to be rich and never going to be famous. Thanks very much for your time. Hopefully you'll stay safe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Yes, this is the end of another video. If you haven't already done so, can you click on my subscribe button? Yes, it doesn't mean anything other than the fact that I know that you are watching. Yes, it's greatly appreciated. Otherwise, I feel like I'm sitting here just talking to myself. And then, yes, there is MaffsGuru.com, of which you can see a still of now. And what is over there? Well, all the videos ordered by textbook, ordered by topic. You can search for the videos. You can download notes, time codes, exam questions, and so much more coming up. Yeah, it's absolutely free to join. So I'm done. Thank you very much. I hope to see you in another video. Give me a shout out to your mates if you can. I just want to make sure that everyone finds maths interesting and easy. All right, take care, guys. See you again. Bye-bye. Stay safe.